football, and football hasn't changed. As long as we're talking about it. It's a football game, right? It's college football.
Yes, Zach Moss probably should have got a few more carries than he did. No, the offensive line didn't perform very well. They need to get better. We need to coach them better. We got good players up front, and we expect them to be better this week. They're a prideful group, and they will respond.
JP Chunga, Mitch Harper here inside the Pac-12 Panic Room, plus BYU, plus USC, plus Weber. And we saw it, Utah and Northern Illinois play a football game. Kyle Whittingham said he overreacted, but first glance, it wasn't pretty.
It was not pretty, JP. I mean, to go to DeKalb, Illinois, and just struggle like they did, I was kind of shocked, to be quite honest, JP. It comes down to Chase Hansen, the beast.
Yeah.
The beast, according to Kyle Whittingham, ultimately getting that pick six to end the game to close it out. But just an ugly game that raises a lot more questions about Utah moving forward. And I don't want to get completely off the bandwagon of them possibly winning the Pac-12 South, but it took a little bit of a hit just because Northern Illinois has no offense. That showed itself out with the way the score ended, but still, I thought Utah, the offense, there's some questions to be had still with this group.
Super candid interview from Kyle Whittingham with Bill, Scott, and Tom after the game, where he says this level isn't going to be good enough against better teams. It's going to be a rough season if that's what they're going to see on offense.
The message in no uncertain terms is we've got to get a lot better on offense if we're going to have a chance to win many more games this year. That wasn't good enough. We can't finish drives. A very huge disappointment. Coming into the season, thought we had a lot going for us, a lot of weapons. Put on that display tonight was disappointing.
They had 6 sacks, 14 tackles for a loss from just that offensive line that wasn't producing anything. I was surprised just how poorly it's gone so far in the first couple of weeks for this offensive line and this entire offense, considering it's year 2 of Troy Taylor.
Yeah, the offensive line was really bad. Now, granted, Sutton Smith, really good defensive.
He's tremendous.
He's really good, but still, Utah should dominate at the line of scrimmage. Whenever I think Utah, I think of line of scrimmage play and just sheer dominance. And to have that game, the way it played out, it kind of made me think that just Whittingham's approach to the game just kind of reflect itself on the players, because just get out of there at any cost, just get out with a win, stay injury-free. Zach Moss got a little bit nicked up, but he's expected to play, according to Tyler Huntley earlier today on the Bill O'Reilly show. But I just thought that game kind of reflected, I feel like, the attitude of maybe the coaching staff. Just get in, get out, find a win at all costs, because I think Utah will play better this week, and they usually rise to their opponents. But that was just surprising to not see Utah's offense dominate like I thought they should.
Yeah, and it's just a weird game to play. DeKalb, Illinois.
ESPN News.
ESPN Ooze as the venue. You had Bill Roth and Mike Golick's son on the call, who sometimes got a little erratic on their facts, saying the Chase Hansen family has been providing for this Utah team. I think he messed that up, obviously, with the Martins. And then that Santana Moss is Zach Moss's dad. That would be great if you could manage that pipeline of Santana Moss's kids, because Santana Moss, great U player.
Yeah, you and I as producers, we'd be jumping all over that for our shows. Getting a Santana Moss, get anyone from the U that played with Santana and basically raise Zach Moss. But no, when I heard that, I was like, where did they pull that one out?
I thought they were right for a second, because I was like, wait, have I been wasting my time and not getting Santana Moss on the show?
Yeah.
What am I doing? And then I had to fact check and no.
Because I was like, I didn't see a Craggs article. I didn't see anything ever about this connection.
Craggs would have jumped all over that one. Dirk Facer would have jumped all over that. Furlong, all the good Utah guys would have gotten all. Hell, the 24/7 guys.
Yeah, Ute Zone.
Dan Sorensen, Brian Brown, those guys would have jumped all over that. So I was surprised at that fact there. But the general attitude of being in DeKalb just clearly wore on this team. The defense, though, completely legit.
Yeah,
it seemed like they know what they're doing.
Yeah, the defense is really good for Utah. I think might be one of the best in the conference. That's not really a surprise. I mean, Utah's always one of the best defenses, but I think, the long bus ride in, an hour and a half in to the Cal, I mean, just all these different things just felt weird about that game. You don't usually see Utah out in the Midwest. So very strange game. They came out with a win, but still, because of the lackluster performance, didn't get into the top 25 where we all thought, okay, last week they're the first team receiving votes. They're going to be in. It's going to be a ranked matchup. Utah-Washington didn't hammer itself out that way because of that lackluster performance. Even Washington looked at times lackluster against North Dakota.
It was a close game in that North Dakota game into the third quarter. So Washington looking forward. Chris Peterson was not happy with the way that team ran the ball, the fact that they don't have their starting center in. He's week to week for that team. They have some problems going into this game as well, especially when you consider that things aren't going so hot for them on the ESPN side. Mark Jones taking a swipe at him, and now they've got another ESPN crew in this week at Rice-Eccles Stadium.
Yeah, that's a panic room in and of itself. So strange that Mark Jones, the cupcake dilemma, if you will, from last year with, what was it, Quinn Kesenich or Kesenich, thank you for that.
He's a lacrosse guy too.
Oh, really? Is he Syracuse? Is he a Syracuse guy?
That's how I know. No,
okay.
I think he's a Hopkins guy.
Oh, John's classic lacrosse team.
He's always on those Syracuse lacrosse games.
That's good. But the unique dynamic there, and the conference is getting involved. Yeah. Emails leaking out. So unusual, but nonetheless, I think it sets up for a really big game. Still two teams in the conference that could potentially win the title. But again, I don't think the league has done much through the first 2 weeks nationally speaking that really changes the perception of this conference. Everyone still viewed it as the fifth best conference, if maybe some people were making an argument for the AAC P6, but the Pac-12 hasn't changed that role at all through how the results have been hammering out. Utah's that close call with Northern Illinois. So there's a lot of work to be done as far as perception goes in the conference right now.
One Pac-12 team that did get a win, Cal against BYU, and looking at that game, a lot to take from it just in fact that you saw BYU revert back to 2017 BYU offensively.
And I think that's the great way to put it, is that it was bad. It was just a bad offensive performance for BYU, and I think a lot of people, the fan base at least, they felt it was the same way. 2017 offense all over again, and then it makes you raise questions about Tanner Mangum. Is it time for Zach Wilson, the true freshman from Draper, Utah, to step in freshly, now barely 18 years old, just had his birthday a couple weeks ago? Is it time for him? I still think you give Tanner maybe one more shot, but I think in that second half against Wisconsin this coming week, a top 5 team, I think you could be seeing the Zach Wilson era begin, because Tanner's performance, you've had 3 years. You've had 3 years. I know 3 offensive coordinators, and that's kind of tough for him. He didn't have control of that, but still, the same mechanics. I think the mechanics have gotten worse over his career, and I just don't think he is who he is. And I think for BYU, it's so critical to get to a bowl game. A performance like that has to make them reevaluate everything on the offensive side.
20 yards in the second half up until that final drive where they score. Oh my! It was a late watch anyway, but watching inept offense late at night.
So brutal.
For some reason, I wanted to stay on the Arizona-Michigan State game.
I don't blame you there.
Yeah, that was cool. But that BYU game, BYU against Cal, was just a slog. And then you see just Tanner Mangum unable to capitalize on the BYU defense's turnovers that they were able to generate from the Cal team. That's a very average Pac-12 team. Very average. Nothing really special of that Cal team. That's one that you can really take advantage of and pick up a win. BYU unable to do it.
I think that's a great way to put it as well, because I think that this Cal team probably going to be in the same predicament they were last year. Start out 3-0 now, but can they get 3 more wins in conference? I'm still kind of skeptical of that. I thought Garbers and McElwain, we didn't see Ross Bowers at all. I thought they did a really nice job. Had success picking up a lot of third downs in the second half. But still, on the BYU side of things, that's just a real crushing defeat than the manner in which they lost. And I think a lot of the skepticism from BYU fans going into that game was a byproduct of Arizona, another Pac-12 school who just got drilled by Houston.
Oh, my goodness.
And it left a lot of doubt did BYU just beat a terrible team? And it's another 4-9 season coming up. It kind of looked that way against Cal.
I'm looking at the stat that led off for me going into this year from last year. BYU, 8 points per game against teams with winning records.
Wow.
I'm like, oh, geez.
That's a really telling stat. I didn't even know that. That's really good.
Things are not looking great if you're scoring 10 against a Cal team. You went crazy against Arizona, but nothing shown from that Wildcat team against Houston and the week before. It could be a long season for them up there in Provo. What's the expectation with this top 5 team coming in Wisconsin at Camp Randall?
I think just simply score points as much as you can. They're going to lose the game. There's no way to even say, will they win it? No, it's not going to happen. But just show some signs of life against a really good Wisconsin defense and score some points. That's ultimately, I think, what BYU fans and the program is looking for. Have an offense that can just generate some points because, just like you said, this game against Cal looked a lot like 2017, and 2017's offense was one of the 10 worst in college football. It might have been the worst, I honestly think. It was so bad, slogging through those 13 games thinking, oh my goodness, what am I doing with my life? Do I need to reevaluate my career here? But it just wasn't good football, and Saturday night wasn't good football either. But if you can just get some points against a really good defense, it's got to give you a little bit more hope moving forward offensively, and just maybe looking at that game against Cal and thinking, okay, it's not a true indicator of how bad or Arizona wasn't an indicator of how good they are. Just have some significant progress. It's gonna be tough because that's a really good defense, and their offensive line for Wisconsin is fantastic. But just score some points. That's all they got to ask for.
Final thoughts looking in the Pac-12 panic room at games across the Pac-12. I go straight to that Arizona State, Michigan State upset down there in Tempe. Sure, it's 1 o'clock at night by the time that things finish up for Michigan State. Their body clock is so out of whack because they're on East Coast time or Central. Doesn't matter. It's still late for them, and they have to deal with the 90-degree heat. But Herm Edwards at Pac-12 Media Day, which will be referenced for the rest of this college football season, he says, when things get tough, we're going to throw it to one. I know how to coach. We're going to throw it to one. They threw it to one, and they won the game. Amazing stuff from Herm Edwards and that team. 2-0 to start this season.
Yeah, Reverend Herm doing a fantastic job. You got to give it to him. I mean,
I'm
curious, though, of how good Michigan State was, or is, rather. Week 2 of college football, I just feel like around the country, Pac-12, national picture, it feels like there's a lot of unknowns outside of the Bamas, the Clemsons, and Michigan State kind of fits that bill. 2 years ago, they had a 3-9 season. Last year, the quietest 10-win season you'll find. I think they're somewhere in the middle, but nonetheless, good win for Arizona State because my predictions are already shot, JP. I had them going 2-10. No, they're 2-0 and they're riding high, and maybe. I'd have to look at all the non-conference wins again, but it might be one of the best wins in the conference, non-conference wise. I mean, to get a top 15 team in Tempe, they seem to always do this in this late night tilt against Big Ten teams. The controversy with Wisconsin a few years back. So Herm Edwards getting it done. The CEO role that he's taken on, a GM role, it's working so far. And I kind of thought I really thought it was going to be a disaster, but I also thought that it's either going to be the disaster or it's going to be really good and surprise a lot of people. And so far, it's the latter. He's surprising folks and doing a really good job.
Colorado 2-0, Arizona State 2-0. They were picked at the bottom of the Pac-12 South. They're looking at the top and looking pretty good. That being said, Utah obviously still up there, 2 wins, and USC at 1-1. Anything else stand out in the panic room for you?
Yeah, Colorado's win. I thought that is a huge win on the road. Scott Frost, his home opener, first game, they had their first one canceled due to rain, but that was a huge win for Colorado, and I think this is a team that you could be talking 8 wins this year for them. I think they're off to a great start. They were explosive against Colorado State, and Colorado State just beat Arkansas this past weekend in the Choice City. Green for the money, gold for the honey, as my old friend James Bates would say back in the day on the mountain. But I like what Colorado's doing. I think that's going to make for here locally a pair of great weekends for Utah, rivalry weeks against, the BYU game's always close, but they might be a dumpster fire by then. But Colorado is going to be really good. I'm excited to see how they continue to progress because their offense is really good.
Better production value, the panic room or the mountain?
Absolutely the panic room. The panic room, we got a great studio. Maurice Payton, I liked him back on ABC4. can't remember. They had Marty Fletcher, the basketball guy. There were some memories though at the old Mountain, but James Bates and Todd Christensen, that was my guys right there.
My favorite part of Mountain Era was the fact that they would go to Versus, and Versus
Oh, yes.
would change its name every
Yes.
6 months on your remote. You'd be looking for Versus. Wait, what did it change its name?
So it was like OLN a week
Yeah.
ago. Now it's Versus.
Why is it showing fishing right now? What's going on?
Old Glenn Parker, the former Arizona Wildcat, doing his thing. Man,
Yeah.
those were some memories. Imagine if we were doing a Mountain West plus Pac-12 plus Utah State Panic Room. That'd be quite the jam back in the day.
Why is Utah in the Mountain West power poll? Well, they're not in the Mountain West. That's why. That's why they're not in the power poll. Pac-12 power poll coming up tomorrow on Gunther and Ben. Anything to preview for Bill?
You know, for Bill's show, we're going to have Adam Rittenberg from ESPN, also
Let's go.
Chris Fetters from 24/7 Sports. He's been like a fixture at that site, one of the founding sites of the 24/7 network from dogman.com. And then we'll also have a lot of college football talk, NFL talk as well, but football all the time. That's our station. Both our shows, we're hitting it hard, talking football. We'll sprinkle in some other stuff once in a while, but our hosts and our shows, we're always talking football. So if you want college football all the time, come to ESPN 700.
College football all the time here in the Panic Room, and that does it for this edition of the Pac-12 Panic Room, plus BYU, plus USU, plus Weber. For Mitch Harper, I'm JP Chunga. Till next time, bye for now.